right, good morning, Lagos. Good morning, everyone, wherever you're listening to. This is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. My name is Ugodre, and I do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30. Wherever you are, whether you're listening at home or you're in your car, trying to find your way to work, just stay tuned. This is going to be another interesting episode of Follow the Money. Yeah, so what a week has been, Lagos. I don't know what you guys have been reading, but I've been reading a lot of stuff, and it looks like there's a bit of good and bad news going on over the last few days. So today, I'm going to be discussing a number of things, and we'll talk about the dollar. Dollar is coming. Yeah, you're going to hear about that. I'm going to try and break down why I think dollar is coming and why. Looks like I'm betting on the Naira. Also going to be talking about interest rates. Interest rates are up, and going up. And then we'll also look at Nigeria's import bill. We did get some data last week from the National Bureau of Statistics telling us how much Nigeria spent on importation last year alone. Staggering numbers here from what I saw. And of course, we'll delve into the stock market. What a week it was last week. The bulls came back roaring. So we're going to check out what happened last week. And of course, there were a lot of dividend announced last week. So if you're a shareholder of the companies that I'm about to name, you want to pay attention so that you check if your stock made it to the dividend list. Of course, I'll end the show with my buy, sell, or hold. You don't want to miss that as well. Okay, so we'll dive right straight into the very first topic today. I don't have a guest today, so it's just all me, all solo. So that gives me enough time to delve into these issues as much as I want to. So it looks like dollars is coming back into the economy. That is if you believe what the central bank just said. So the central bank's director of communications, or acting director of communications, came out last week and said that we had seen about $1 billion or so in the economy in February alone. And she claims that is testament that foreign investors are back. I mean, happy to invest in the economy, and that inflow adds to the 300 million or so we got in January. So we're looking at $1.3 billion thereabout. Now that is a big deal because the whole of last year and like the whole of 2023. January to December, we only got $3.9 billion. So if they're saying we got $1 billion in February alone and $300 million in January, that's a big deal, man. That's a huge, big deal. And they believe that is foreign investors giving their forex policies a pass mark, saying, well, we like what you're doing, and so we're going to start bringing FX back into the country. Of course, this is not foreign direct investment. This is foreign portfolio investment, which they tend to call hot money inflows. Hot money inflows because it's very hot, and the same way it comes in is the same way it goes out. But Nigeria is traditionally dependent on hot money inflows for a stable currency. Look, what does this all mean? It's a big deal. Anytime we see hot money inflows into the country, the exchange rate tends to stabilize. It's on record. It's a fact. If you go back to 2018, 2019, we had about $20 billion in hot money inflows in the country. And that was the last time we enjoyed stable exchange rate, like 360 to the dollar, if you all remember. And then if you go back to 2013, 2014, similarly, it's about $18 billion or so. And we had stable exchange rate of about 165 or so to the Naira. Oh, good old days, man. $1,000 was just 165,000 Naira. Now it's 1.6 million. Anyways, so we're seeing hot money inflows back in. That is typically a first sign that there is light. Is it at the end of the tunnel or in the tunnel? Anyway, there's light somewhere in there, and looks like we might start to experience current exchange rate stability. Exchange rate stability doesn't mean that the Naira is all of a sudden going to be strong, or we're going to go back to 500 to 1 or 600 to 1 or 700 to 1. No, that's not what it means. It just means that you're probably not going to see all that volatility that we saw early in February. February was such a red month. My birthday month, for that matter, was a very red month. And that was when we saw the exchange rate at 1.6, 1.7. At some point, it was like 1.8 to the dollar, and that was crazy. So we're likely not going to see that anymore because of the hot money inflows that are coming in. So it looks like if that steadies on, you're likely going to see this exchange rate remain at about 1.6. So what's been driving this anyways? I mean, like their theory or their confidence, is it really strong? Well, the number of things that they've done, I mean, as you've all known, they've sort of made this market a bit more free, liberalize the market essentially. There's no longer any cap for how much international money transfer operators, can place on the exchange rate. So people who exchange rate dealers and exchange rate as well don't have any cap, so you can sell exchange rate, at your market determined price. So what that means is that disparity between the black market and the official market is essentially gone. And we did look at the data at Nairametrics, and we realized that the disparity is like 0.2%. Like, that's the lowest we've seen in a long time. And this is dating back to years. Far back as like maybe 2018. So what it means is that really no difference between when you buy at the black market and when you buy at the official rate. It's really a good thing because it then means there's no arbitrage. So there's no incentive for people to start to play games with the exchange rate. And by the way, even though I don't necessarily support how they went about it, they've also taken out Binance. So Binance was the cryptocurrency platform where Nigerians typically go and buy crypto with the Naira. So Binance has said, you know what, we're not going to be doing Naira pairs anymore. So that means you can't use Naira to buy crypto. So that also reduces the pressure you have on the Naira chasing dollars or crypto dollars. Or stable coins like they call it, USDT. So with that out of the way, it kind of looks like we're achieving some stability. How long that will last, I don't know. By the way, Goldman Sachs came out with a report over the weekend, and they said that the Naira was, in quote, cheap. They feel like, because of sort of the assault that the exchange rate has had, it's relatively cheap. I've seen some reports suggest the Naira is probably about 900 to the dollar in terms of real value. I don't know. Goldman Sachs believes it's probably going to be like 1-2 in a year from now. So I don't know how many people are going to be happy with that, but in a year from now, I think the exchange rate is whatever the market says it is, to be honest. You can project, but if you come out and say this is what I think it is, I don't know what your bases are. I mean, people come with all sorts of bases. But what it is what it is. And there's still a lot of demand down the line. We all know people are still going to travel. People still have school fees to pay. When that season comes, you're likely going to see a bit more demand, a bit more pressure. A lot of people still need to import things. And so they're going to pay for goods and services because the next wave of imports is coming. So for that reason, you're likely going to see a bit more pressure on the exchange rate. So, but for now, let's just enjoy the moment. Looks like we're seeing stability. The whole of last week, we were at about 1.6. So we've seen 1.6 now for almost 2 weeks going. So it looks like we are, at stability level. Now, what else happened last week? Interest rates remained pretty high. If you all remember, the central bank said they were going to increase monetary policy rate to 22.75%. That action has now reverberated around the economy. So banks are now repricing their risk asset, which is their loans. That's banking terminology for loans. So if you've got a loan in the bank right now, you should be worried because your interest rate is likely going to go up. If you haven't gotten a letter from a bank, you expect a letter anytime soon because they are repricing their loans, essentially. So I've seen some people tell me when they called and they told me my loan is like 30%. Some other guy said if I want to get a loan, it's going to be 35%. It's crazy. I did explain this last week and how banks would essentially increase interest rate. And all this is happening because money supply is at an all-time high in the country. And so the central bank is trying to cut back money supply. And by trying to cut back money supply, they're raising interest rates so that you don't use your Naira to go and start buying dollars. And so people have to reduce how much money they're spending. And the challenges with high interest rate is that it's a disincentive to borrow, and that has a way of affecting production and to a large extent, output in the country. And so that's what is going on. And so the flip side of this is that if you're investing in fixed income securities, that's treasury bills and OMO bills and even your fixed deposit in the bank, you should also expect your interest rate to go up. So, and then the central bank sold Omo bills at 21.5% or thereabout, like the highest we've also seen on record last week. It's sort of $1 trillion, and most of the buyers of that Omo bills is foreign investors. So, no surprise that they brought in $1 billion according to them last month, and so $1 billion translates to 1.6 trillion. Anyway, so looks like foreign investors are taking a bet on automobiles, and who won't? It's kind of a juicy deal for them. Think about it. I mean, if you're a foreign investor in the United States or in the UK, and then you just go and borrow $1 billion at maybe like 2%, and you just come down to Africa and then dump that money in Nigeria and fix it for a year, you're gonna get 21%. I mean, just incredible margins there, and you're going to get 21%, and then at the end of the year you're out. Of course, there are risks that you could take less than your money if the exchange rate depreciates, but the bet is that there's going to be a lot more dollar inflows come in because everybody's going to want to be doing the same thing. So in the next year or so, expect a lot of foreign investors to make a kill in Nigeria. This policy is good because it's bringing money in, but it has its own issues because it costs a whole lot for us to have that kind of money in for us to attract that kind of dollars. We're paying 21.5%. And we're doing this because we just want to have a stable exchange rate. So the central bank is betting that once this inflow of dollars come in, inflation rate can reduce that monster called inflation, and then maybe we can now start to experience some kind of growth. So in a way, if the economy expands because of this move, then it could pay for the cost, of making this move, which is paying foreign investors all this money. Anyway, if you're a local guy in Nigeria, you can still make your money. At the end of the day, just bet, just place your bets well. And so treasury bills and Omo bills and all these fixed income securities are going up. In fact, central bank sold 1.5 trillion or so in treasury bills, are about 19% for the 1 year bill, one year instrument. So if you have money and you buy treasury bills for 1 whole year, you're getting 19%. And most assets, fixed income securities, are also going up like that. So you want to look in that direction if you are someone who's got a lot of naira in your hands. What I also tend to say also is, if you got naira in your hand, you better spend now and save later. I've saying that for a bit now. Spend now and save later, because it kind of looks like when you spend that money, it's almost like you're saving it. Like I know somebody who said he went somewhere and priced something for 100,000 naira on a Friday, and then went back on a Monday and they say it's 150,000 naira. I mean, like, what business can give you that kind of return in 3 days? Tell me. None. In 3 days, except it's a Ponzi. You just put 100,000 naira today, and then the Monday is 150,000. So that's spending for me. So if you have bought that thing on Friday, you've saved 50,000 naira that you can now invest in something else. So that's why I say spend now, save later. Like, that's my theory right now. That's my mantra for 2024 until things start to stabilize, because that's just a roundabout way of investing. So investing is not only when you put money somewhere and then you expect some income to come in. No, investing is also when you make the right decision when it comes to your car. You've got something to do and you've got the money, because these guys just price things anyhow, and we're about getting into a new phase of price adjustments. There's one internet company, Starlink, they just increased their prices last week. Like, that thing used to be like 250,000 naira for the entire box, and then it went to 350,000. Now it's 800,000 naira within the span of 6 to 8 months. I mean, so if you had bought it a year ago, you've saved like a whole lot of money. Like, if so you're going to have to get 100% or 150% in investment for you to pay for that thing today. Anyway, that's it for interest rate and FX. So the good thing is that we're expecting to see a bit more on the FX side in terms of a stronger naira going forward. So import bill, speaking about FX as well, we got some new data. Nigeria spent 35.96 trillion naira, 35.9 trillion actually, on imports. That's what we spent on imports the whole of 2023. Much of that amount came in the second half of the year, and that's explainable because of the FS adjustment. So as you remember that imports is usually paid in dollars. So by the time they convert it to naira, even though they reported in naira, but by the time they convert it using the official exchange rate, that kind of balloons. And so we're seeing 35.9 in terms of import. Expect more in the first quarter of this year because these numbers are like last year's numbers. And last year exchange rate was like 800, 900 or thereabouts. So we're seeing at 1.6 now. So it's probably going to be a lot more currently. So we're spending 35.9 on imports, and we also spend 35.96 we also earn 35.96 trillion on exports. So in a nutshell, trade balance or trade surplus was just 2.9 billion or thereabout. Good thing, because you always want to see a trade surplus, but that's a huge drop from the trade surplus we got in 2022, which was 1.2 trillion. So Nigeria's high import bill is largely due to exchange rate depreciation, like I mentioned earlier, and it's likely to keep going higher because we pay more now to import the same thing we're importing last year. We even think volume of import may have dropped, but in terms of actual amount of money we're spending, it's still pretty high. China remains Nigeria's number one trade partner. We import most things from China, more than any other country, with 7.49 trillion in trade alone, and that's almost like a third of the entire trade we have. And then we also have Netherlands, India as our second highest trading partner. India is number 3. Singapore surprisingly got to number 4, and then the United States makes up top 5 trading partners for Nigeria. In terms of what we spend money importing the most, you want to take a guess? Number 1 is motor spirit, which is fuel. Fuel cost us about 7.5 trillion to import last year. It was 7.7 trillion in 2022. This is despite the fuel subsidy removal. Of course, you all know exchange rate impacted that as well. So it looks like we probably imported less fuel, but the amount is closely the same because of the exchange rate. And of course, processed industrial supplies, that's what manufacturing companies use a lot. They spent 5.5 trillion on importing those things last year. Goods as well, general goods was third. Interesting thing is passenger motor cars, which is transport cars. 1.3 trillion was what we spent importing them last year compared to 2.7 trillion in 2022. Again, this is also due to exchange rate. Sorry, 1.4 trillion compared to 650 or so billion in 2022. My bad. Yeah, so that's how much we spent on passenger motor cars. The F&B industry seem to have been cutting a lot of their imports lately, even though they did 1.2 trillion in imports last year. That was also due to exchange rate. In terms of the actual amount in dollars, I think it's probably way lower than that. So that has been the data when it comes to FX. We're going to take a break now, and when we're back, we go straight into the stock market. Be right back. All right, welcome back, guys. So interesting at the stock market last week. Another interesting week. We saw the bulls come back hard after we thought that maybe the stock market was going to take a breather. Remember last week I said here that it looks like investors are sidling out of the stock market and going right into the fixed income market. But they kind of came back last week, and a major driver for that was Transcorp Power. Remember I had mentioned that the company was going to list, and they did list last week Monday to a fanfare, and they listed at about 240 naira per share, but that stock closed the week at a whopping 3 last week. So a lot of people were scrambling to get Transcorp shares. They couldn't get it. On the first day, I think they sold 40 million units of the shares. And then it went up to 87.4 million after there was much pressure on the second day, and then it fell to 36.9 trillion. Million units. What's wrong with me this morning? Million units. Trillion is just in my mouth. So 40 million, 87.4 million, 36.6 million units on the third day, and then it fell again to 11.1 million units on the fourth day, and then it closed the week at 30.5 million units sold. People really still want more of that stock. But nevertheless, the share price went from, the listed price of 240 and it closed at 264 on the first day itself, gained 10%, gained another 10% on Tuesday to 290.4. I think I was able to get a little bit of that stock on Tuesday, not as much as I wanted, but I got some. And then by Wednesday, it went to 319. and then 351 is where it sort of have flatlined. As we see, nobody knows what's going to happen today, but if you do ask some investors who have their own opinion, they tell you that they expect the bulls to come. And I have a friend who said he's probably going to sell a little bit today because he's made some money from it. But Transcorp Power powering the exchange. So what happened to the exchange in general? The exchange, the all-share index appreciated by 2.6%. And the market capitalization also increased by 6%. So we hit another all-time high, 101,330 points last year, all share in the last week at all share index, while the market capitalization of the stock market is now at 57.29 trillion. Waiting to see if we're going to hit that 60 trillion mark this year, but the bulls are back. So the Nigerian Stock Exchange, or Nigerian All-Share Index, as it is often called, is now up 35.5% year to date. That is an astonishing number, because when I say we're up 35.5% year to date in just 3 months, that if you sort of annualize it, you're already looking about 80%. I mean, I don't like to analyze stock market gains, but I mean, if you do analyze this one, is at 35. It's probably around 80% or so. But even if you didn't want to analyze it, let's now compare how Nigerian stock market is doing with stock market of other countries. So if you go to South Africa is down 4.6% year to date. Ghana is up 5.59% year to date. Kenya is essentially flat at 0.4%, and Egypt 25.7%. So it kind of looks like countries where you see exchange rate challenges, because Nigeria and Egypt has similar challenges economically. It looks like our stock market is on a tear. So we happen to be like the best stock market in sub-Saharan Africa at the moment. So that is, the stock market. Transcorp wasn't the only major driver last week. We also saw big moves from PZ. PZ did very well last week. We also saw FBN Holdings, big moves. Even MTN had big moves, and by the way, Nairametrics interviewed the CFO of MTN last week. You're going to check that on our YouTube page, and he did drop a lot of nuggets, try to explain their results, and what MTN plans to do to reverse course and this year. So you don't want to miss that. Go to Nairametrics, youtube.com/Nairametrics, and you see that video sometime today. So what is my view on what I'm seeing in the stock market? Buy, sell, or hold? Looks to me like this is a buy. It looks like there are, pockets of stocks you might want to cherry pick. And I say this not because I love the stock market. I just say this because I love to make money. And if you want to do that, you have to look at some things. There's certain benchmarks that you would look at. And I told you already, foreign investors are coming back into the country. And if they really are coming back in the country, as CBN has said, all their money is not only going to go into the fixed income market, it's likely also going to go into the stock market. And so if you're able to pick solid, good stocks early enough before they come in, then you could be in a position to make some nice profit. The risk, of course, is that we're already up 35.5%, and people are saying, where else can it go? Like, can it keep going up? Is it going to keep going up? It could, to be honest, it could. You never know. The next wave is probably May, because they always say stocks go down in May. So maybe that might be the best time to get into stocks, and then wait again till second or third quarter of the year, and then you can maybe exit if you want to, or hold on for long if you want. But looks like the stock market might just be one of those places where you want to put that excess money that you have that is contributing to our money supply. You might want to go in there. So very interesting stuff. FBN Holdings also going up as well. They did very well last week. Seem to be the ones driving what is happening in the banking sector, because we're also seeing banking stocks all up in there. The Fugas especially, whether it's UBA or GTB or Axis Bank or even Zenith, they all seem to be just there. I think there are opportunities. The only challenge with the banks is whether they will pay dividend. I think that's what people are trying to figure out. Are they going to pay dividends? Nobody really knows. And so keep an eye on that. Earnings forecast, Gary Power did say that they were going to make 14 billion in the second quarter of 2024 alone. That is huge because same period last year they did 6.9 billion. So that would probably be their best ever quarterly profits if they do post that kind of number in Q2. So watch out for that stock, and trust me, if that happens, that stock is likely going to be on a tear as well. So want to pay attention to Geregu Power. Total Energies, that's one of the largest oil marketing companies in Nigeria, also projected 6.4 billion in pre-tax profit in the second quarter of 2024. And that's slightly lower than the 7 billion they did this time last year, but still a good number for them. The only red flag I had is that they said they were going to have a negative cash balance for about 64.5 billion. I don't just looks like there's going to be overdraft somewhere. For the company. Custodian and Allied Investment, also Custodian Investment, said they were going to make pre-tax profit of 5.7 billion in the second quarter versus 4.9 billion that they did this time last year. Important number to look at. Wonder how what that could mean for the stock of that company. You probably want to check that out. And of course, VFD Finance also had their own projection, 4.6 billion. Second quarter of this year versus not sure what it was last year because they had not listed at that time, so the numbers are not really out, but they're hoping to see revenue of 24.9 billion last year. So in terms of dividend payment, if you have stocks that are paying dividend, if you're a shareholder of the Nigerian Exchange Group, they have proposed 75 kobo as dividend, and they want to pay that on the 27th of March 2024. But you got to own that stock by the 26th. If you don't own it before the 26th, you're going to get that dividend. So they want to pay 75 kobo. And NASCON and Allied Industry, that stock has been on a tear. It's been, the bulls have been behind that stock for a bit. And now we know why. And that's what people always say. It's as if people always get information in the Nigerian stock market that others don't have. Because that stock has just been going up. Now we know why it's been going up. They proposed a bonus of 2 for 100. I hope that number is correct. That's not that much, but 2 for 100, and the qualification date is 5th of March. I think it's closed already. So if you don't have that stock, you're probably not going to. I think it's 3rd of May. 3rd of May. My bad. 3rd of May. It's the way the date was put here. 3rd of May, and payment date is 27th of May. So you can still own that stock, and if you own that stock, you're going to get 2 for 100. So for 2 shares for every 100 shares you have in bonus. Africa Prudential also announced dividend. They're proposing 45 kobo. Qualification date is 15th of March. So if you want to get that dividend, you got to own that stock by the 15th of March. And of course, payment date is 28th of March 2024. Mercure Industry, they also just listed last year. And so they're also proposing 15 kobo in dividend. Qualification date is 17th of May. So you have to 17th of May to own the stock if you want to earn that dividend. And you're going to pay that dividend on the 20th of May 2024. So that essentially is it for the market. I'm going to close with my buy, sell, or hold. So what am I buying? I'm buying the stock market. I'm buying Nigeria. It's Naira likely going up, likely getting stable. So that's what I'm buying this week. I like that news. I like some of the numbers I'm seeing. The data I'm seeing looks pretty good. So I'm going to be buying that. What am I selling? I'm selling insecurity. We had more kidnaps last week. We don't need insecurity in this country. Nobody wants that kind of drama, because when you see how foreign investors tend to view insecurity, it's not always good for Nigeria. So that was a huge problem that I couldn't deal with. So that is what I am selling. What am I holding? What's happening in the US and the EU in terms of their economy? Their jobs numbers were out and it was strong again. There are hints that they might start to increase their rates because I think the economy is in a much better place. If that happens, that could have a huge positive impact on Nigeria. But I'm going to hold on that for now until I see a bit more numbers. So that is it for the week, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just listening, this has been Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. My name is Ugodre. We do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on the station. You can also stream it on Spotify, podcast, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You get the show as well. That is it for this week. Do have a profitable week ahead. Goodbye.